Yeah, so anyway, Kingdom Home Builders Shine. I have obviously a young family, so Jen and I have been talking recently about how to do this well. What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? And we definitely have both, right? But as we look at things, really, the first main thing I want to share is that our homes need to be a godly model. And these are some things that it should reflect. But, your family is an example to your kids, to your friends that come into your home. It could be neighbors, co-workers, extended family, those that know the Lord, those that don't. A lot of times I think we can look at our home as just like about us, but it's so much more than that, right? And yet the things that we should model, we can be a bad model, right? And that's not what I'm encouraging. I'm encouraging the model that would honor God, which is a model of love, of commitment, of forgiveness and honor, those things. And all participants, even the kids in the house, they all have an aspect of that where they're honoring their parents, where we're forgiving one another of our faults, whatever that might be, where we're doing our best with God's help to show unconditional love to one another, because that's what He shows to us. So when you're really frustrated at your spouse, right? Asking God to help you love them the way that they need to be loved. And in that, you're honoring God. So, families need it. A family unit needs that. But families in general need to see that. And so there's multiple purposes in that, in placing your family upon the foundation that is Christ, that is the rock. It is a ripple effect that can happen if you continue to contend for that. And so just some things as it relates to that point. Our family and being a godly family is not just for our benefit. It certainly is for our benefit, but it's not just for our benefit. Keyword just. So it's for really all families that know ours, right? And so not perfect people, not perfect families, just saying, hey, like there is a great and mighty thing that God chooses to do by displaying what He's doing in and through our family, right? And that can be just being, and as we've tried to say with this group that we're just kicking off, the small group, be transparent. We expect, we'll talk about our junk. We all have it. I told them, I said, we have it. Just because I'm one of the pastors here doesn't mean I'm perfect. And yet God wants to use that for our good. And so what does that look like? That just looks like being authentic with one another, testifying to things that are, at times, words of encouragement like you just heard from Evan, and that maybe wasn't necessarily directly about his family, but it was about the faithful acts of their house and what God did there in a little plant, right? But, how many people maybe just had a really bad week, right? And need to be encouraged by how you guys are living. And so recognize that God's using your family in ways that you can't predict, that you can't understand, and you're many times not even aware of. Also, we know this, but it's an investment in the future generation. So not just your kids. Yes, you're investing in the kids, right, that you are caring for. But even in this church, as Alicia was praying, that we're investing in the lives of other kids, right? Kids that we know now by faith, kids that we don't yet know, that we have faith that we'll have an opportunity to invest into. Kids that might be missing something. They feel like they're missing something at home. As a body, as a family here, can we be a part of bringing to them what they need, right? And I think we can. I think it can be an encouragement to recognize that your investment in the generation that's emerging is what will they do? How will they respond through their lives? How will they say, hey, maybe it wasn't perfect when I grew up, whatever that means, right? But God would do something new in and through them because they saw great examples around them. And even if they didn't personally experience everything that they would want, you guys could be part of paving the way that they would believe that God could do that, And so significance, church, with what we're doing each and every day that we live and function as a godly family. And we're also not meant to hide this. So, the holy huddle Christian bubble, whatever you want to call it, where, We can many times gather in a church with many people that know Jesus, that follow him. You can hang out with a lot of Christian friends, and we're not saying don't do that. We need that. We need to encourage one another, but recognize that you're not supposed to hide what God's doing. If anything, you should be screaming from the mountaintops what's happening. You can find a way to say it in a way that doesn't come across as Christianese to people, but just talking about amazing things that God's doing in your life. Doesn't matter if they're an atheist, but you can do it in such real ways that people cannot deny your testimony. They cannot. They might not fully understand it, but they can be impacted by it. And so we just need to be available to share this, not try to be like, well, I'll evangelize or I'll do these things. Like if somebody directly asks me or whatever, I'm available, but kind of over here. It's like, no. And it doesn't mean like try to be showy. It just means be so filled with godly joy when you communicate what he's doing. It's just a natural part of what you do. And people are like, maybe this God is real. Because we know that he is, right? And yet God uses our testimony to communicate that. Some scriptures just to look at. First we'll look at Proverbs 22, verse 6. And I wanted to look at the Amplified this time. And it says, train up a child in the way that he should go, teaching him to seek God's wisdom and will for his abilities and talents. We know that each child, just pick on Elijah, we know you have gifts and talents. God's given them to you, right? But, our collective prayer and what the word would show us is that we're meant to encourage you. John and Joy are meant to encourage you to seek what? God's wisdom and how to utilize them, right? That he would be glorified in that. That's what he desires in and through your life. Even when he is old, then he or you will not depart from those things, and God will be glorified even more. So in Psalms 145, it's funny, I'll many times prepare a message in advance, and then it'll be sitting there for a while, and I'll just keep studying, and I'm like, I'm done, right? I'm moving on to the next one. But then, God will give me new things. So sorry, this is a little bit small on how it's projecting there, so I'll read it. But again, Psalms 145, verse 4 to 7. And this, for me, it's a picture of what it looks like for our family to shine. So in the title was Kingdom Homebuilders Shine, but what does that mean to shine? Verse 4 starts, let each generation tell its children of your mighty acts. Let them proclaim your power. I will meditate on your majestic, glorious splendor and your wonderful miracles. Your all-inspiring deeds will be on every tongue. I will proclaim your greatness. Everyone will share your story, the story of your wonderful goodness. They will sing with joy about your righteousness. And in that, what we're wanting to encourage as we started out there, each generation telling its children of the mighty acts. So again, testifying. Maybe even the things that happened in the past before they were born, right? But revisiting them, taking them back to that stuff, talking about that stuff. Even stuff now that you could testify to 20 years from now, saying the same stuff. It doesn't change. What could change is that how it could be used and impact people down the line could be different than what it could look like today, right? But our testimony just continues to be used. And so these mighty acts, the biggest things that God's done in your life that you really can't just explain but say God did it, right? That never gets old. That's always able to be used. And so our hope is in that as we're telling our children of those mighty acts and how God moved in power, that they're going to continue to do those things, that they're going to continue to meditate on these things and reflect and wonder, and maybe, again, they're seeking God for wisdom and how to use their gifts, and then they're actually seeing God do something in the midst of those things. Now they're testifying of the very types of things that we testified to in and through their lives, but it's a snowball that we're meant to build and roll and see God build momentum with. In the book of Matthew, I wanted to look this time at 3 different translations. We're going to start with New Living, then we're going to look at the Passion, and then we're going to go to Amplified. But I said this earlier, and this was kind of to my point. We're not meant to hide our light. It's meant to shine. And so, what does that look like? For some that feel like they're evangelists at heart, it's easier for them probably to just go and to speak about things openly and to get into stuff. But this isn't In the Word, it doesn't say, if you are such and such, don't do this, let it shine. Speaking of all of us, right? All of us. And it says this, you are the light of the world. We've heard this many times. Like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. So we're not meant to be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. Gives light to everyone in the house. The people that come over for a meal. The mailman that drops something off. Everyone in the house where you could have stopped for a second and gave him 5 minutes, heard something, be like, I'm going to be praying for you about that. Whatever it is, not rather than like, hey, thanks for my Prime package, see you later, but you were there and you were available. Many ways we can apply this. Where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your Heavenly Father. You don't need to walk around being like, hey, check out what I did, right? But you can testify so richly, so boldly about who your God is and what He's doing, that it will shine out for all to see, that it will be evidence of the good deeds that God has used you to do, even if you're not directly saying, hey, look at what I did, just talking about what happened in the midst of how God worked in your life. The Passion Translation kind of swings it into a different wrinkle that I really liked, and it says, your lives light up the world. Let others see your light from a distance. So this is definitely needing a drink here. Try to see if I can talk and work with one hand. From a distance is what I'm trying to get at here. So people are watching even if you don't realize it. Let me say that again. People are watching even if you don't realize it. Okay? Yeah. They're watching that Christian who maybe doesn't seem to kind of be walking out what they talk about. They're watching. And they're watching the Christian that's just authentic and real despite their junk, testifying to God, standing on it in the midst of stuff where it seems like crazy, and we're evidencing before them what faith looks like, exercised, right? So from a distance, people are seeing this where it's like, somebody's talking about, let's say somebody knows John and John's standing faithfully. Now they're talking to some guy at their work. You've never met him. You might never meet him. But from a distance, they're watching your light shine, right? And so we can't really, our human brains stop at a certain point and God goes beyond that, where He's basically working and utilizing us beyond what we'd even understand, right? So just tap into that reality. For how can you hide a city that stands on a hilltop? And who would light a lamp, then hide it in an obscure place? Instead, it's placed where everyone in the house can benefit from its light. So don't hide your light. Let it shine brightly before others, so that the commendable things that you do will shine as light upon them, and they will give their praise to your Father in heaven. And that might even be, again, somebody that hasn't accepted Christ, right? And maybe I'm going off a little too far on this one, but I'd say, it's very possible that people that have not given their lives to Jesus could still be amazed, and in a moment where they might say, well, I think there's something supernatural, they just kind of leave it in this generic spiritual entity category. They're praising the fact of amazing faith that was displayed in something that they can't explain. Their agnostic, atheist, whatever position's not going to ever be able to define it, right? And even for the Christian, many times, we can't prove anything in the sense have we sat in heaven? Have we physically been there, right? But we're living by faith, right? We're not living by sight. And so I think people are massively confronted with this reality as we live the right way, that they would even praise your Father in heaven. And that might be the catalyst one day to see them give their lives to Jesus, right? So again, a lot of times and we're going to be getting in a series next month. Pastor Phil, Pastor Ryan, and I are going to be talking about practical evangelism. And I wasn't really thinking about that yet, but I can see evidence of this where, you don't have to be the guy that's going out and trying to act like Ravi Zacharias, like the great apologetic or whatever. You just have to be somebody that's so real that they can just taste the goodness of God. They can taste the reality of who he is. It's like dripping off of you, right? And, when you think of like stories like Good Samaritan and whatnot, people just putting on display the type of lifestyle that honors God, people want that. They gotta have it, right? And they might not even understand that, but like inside them, there's a longing that you start to fulfill by living in a manner that is glorifying to God. So I'll just leave that open because apparently I'm getting off track with my drinking, but we'll get back to it. So, Amplified. Again, moves the kaleidoscope a little bit more. And it says, you are the light of Christ to the world. So, we can be a vehicle to bring the light of Christ into people's lives. Basically, kind of reinforcing what I just said. They're seeing the power of Christ on display, evidence in and through how we're living, what's happening, what we're saying about what's happening. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see the good deeds and moral excellence. Again, not compromising in a day and age where it's like, well, so-and-so did it and they did it, and it seems like it's okay to kind of cheat like to that point, and like, why not, And it's like, no, moral excellence to the point where they're like, maybe you're not judging them and like smacking them over the head with the Bible and saying like, you're going to hell, but your moral excellence helps them potentially to redefine how they should live, right? Without maybe even you directly saying anything to them, just the way you lived, God uses that to confront them, right? Very, very possible. And then recognize and honor and glorify your Father who is in heaven, where you love your neighbor so well, maybe the one that's just treated you like garbage, and you just basically won't back down. It's like, I got nothing but love. It's all I got. It's all I got till I'm done. As long as you lived here, it's all I got. And maybe over time, God wears them down to the point where just like, these people I thought they had an agenda, but maybe they don't. Or if they do, I kind of like their agenda, And so, but you've got those people, the one that they won't answer the door, or like, who the heck are you? Or like, you get a telemarketer or whatever. And like, maybe it's that, but it's just this notion that I feel like God, the Holy Spirit's wanting to communicate to us today, like, everything we do, all the facets of how we live will shine in ways that God will accomplish, right? And people that don't know him get to know them when they see what he's doing in and through our lives. It's not like we have to go manufacture some like 6-step playbook and go out there and get people saved. You can't save anybody. God can save them in and through you, right? But this natural way of being authentic and real with people wears people down to the point where they'll let you in. And then you can love them really, really well. And the ones that God strategically placed into your life, again, could be at work, could be in your actual physical neighborhood like we taught on, could just be in circles, friends of friends, somehow you know these people. Don't miss the opportunities to see God use you. And it's not any more complicated than just really testifying to the goodness of God. Not waiting for people to ask you, but just having a hymn on your lips, right? So as we go forward, another thing that I really wanted to get across was that your family, we're agents. So this, the Word of God talks about we're co-heirs with Christ. We're ambassadors of the kingdom of God. Okay. Another way I might say it is that a kingdom home builder family is an agent for his purposes, for God's purposes. You're an agent to accomplish the purposes that God has for your family. You might have your own family mission, this, that, and the other thing, whatever. I'm not saying you can't have that, and it's good. I mean, our family actually has one up on the wall in the living room, but like, okay, great. But really what we're talking about is the purposes of God, the ones that he's already shown you, that he's perhaps yet to reveal, but as you continue to walk forward, he's going to show you what he wants you to do. And the key in this point, though, is not just the ones that make sense to you, that you're like, yeah, I'm bought in. It wasn't on the screen. Not simply the convenient ones. So let me read this out. Kingdom home builder families are agents for all the purposes not simply the convenient ones. So what I'm getting at here, mainly this message is meant to be an encouragement today. But every once in a while, Pastor Ryan and I will just kind of put something in there, a little sling something at you. So maybe this isn't you. Maybe one day it will be you. I don't know. But the things where you're like, God's really putting this on my heart. I'm supposed to do this thing. You fill in the blank what this thing is, but you're kind of like, I don't know if I really want to do that thing, right? And it's like, well, he didn't say that it was going to be convenient. He's not looking for your convenience. He's not playing a game with us. He's sovereign. He is the one that's in control of all things, yet he's a gentleman, and he's not going to come beat you upside the head and make you do anything. He's just wanting you to say, I'm all in. I'll be subject to whatever you got for me, God. I'm all in. And so in that, if we can really get to that place where we say, hey, who doesn't want to do the convenient ones, right? The things that like, wow, God used me in this way, and I was so excited to do it, and it was phenomenal, and whatever that is. I don't know, like maybe Chris, it has something to do with like your car industry, and it's like it was really easy for you to do it, and like God used you in some significant way. Well, okay, great. But maybe it's like something where you're going to feel like completely out of your comfort zone. Maybe even in Kenya, I don't know. And it's like, but it'll be still maybe not a convenient one, but it's going to like be awesome, right? And so in that, what we see when we look at Jesus and what he said to his disciples is basically never said it was going to be about convenience or their schedules. He got the original 12 guys and was like, just follow me. Drop it all. Come on, let's go. Let's roll. He didn't talk about convenience. He wasn't like, go have a little party with your family and, we'll see you on the 14th or whatever. He's like, no, let's go. He had a mission. He knew what he was doing. Some examples just to kind of like give testimony in this, though, as I even look at our church. But before I say these examples, we just need to make room for God to have access to all parts of our family and our lives. It is really difficult. Each of you are different places, but I know as one of the families in here with young kids, it is really hard to be like in that spot to be like, yeah, I can do this, where you're like, I'm going to lose my gourd, or like maybe it was like hard just to even get here to church, like the basic things, but yet we can do anything with God's help. Anything. If you're just like, I don't know how the heck I'm going to do this, God, but I believe you will help me, and so I'm in. He will help you. But you have to say, you can have access to all parts of my family and my lives. And it might make it more difficult at home. You might already be like, I'm struggling already. How the heck are we going to do that? He's like, well, let me show you. Can I show you? Will you let me do it? And so some examples, though, of I think foundational things that I saw us do as a church that I want to encourage you guys to continue to do. Take your kids to be a part of the ride. Don't leave them at home. Don't leave the kids at home. Take them to the store with you when you're doing something. Real basic stuff. I'm talking about practical day-to-day living. Especially when your children, just want to be with you. Let them see the light from your life shine right before them just by being with them. When age appropriate, do things like we've done. John and Elijah, first missions trip, we went to Honduras together. Perfect example, right? I forget about this past advance, but I know for a fact, the previous one, Owen and Elijah went. And so going with their fathers and just being in the midst of these things. Those are specific events and something like cool that was done. So it doesn't need to be that. It can just be like a Saturday morning going to the hardware store or picking up flowers or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But, the reality is this isn't just for like, the pastors of the church to do or the teachers to do to speak into your kids and stuff. It's like the most basic way that you can allow yourself to go down this path is basically just say, teach my kids that like even when you wanted to watch your like cartoons or whatever it is, I don't know, let's do life together. Let's be available to God. And yeah, we're praying for that person at the store. We had no clue we were going to do that. But we're available. We're making ourselves available, right? And so there's just power in that, and I just want to encourage you guys to continue to go forward in that. And a shameless plug for our year of loving our neighbors as ourselves. I like the shirt back there, young man, wearing that. So I had mine on yesterday. But with that, again, we finished the class. Some of you, a good number of you came to it. We're not done. We just began. Friday we had the first movie night. Pray that families that we contacted will come. And even if it's people that we didn't tell about, maybe this week you're going to tell somebody and you're going to bring somebody and be like, hey, let's watch a movie together. Let's just roll. Do you like candy and popcorn? Well, I do. Let's go watch a movie together. Okay? So challenge you with that. But some other things. So barbecues, block parties. These are the aspects of the book. Our family's going to do a second one this year. We reached out to a neighbor that's going to spearhead promoting it with us, and it's great to see like some momentum from last year, what's going to happen. But like just get out of your way and do the things that God puts on your heart. There's things that God puts on our hearts that we don't do because we're like, oh yeah, you know, like maybe, I don't know, let's say, Bart, I'll just pick you. So let's say we're talking about something, you're like, yeah, you know, I feel like I'm supposed to do this, and then like, you know, months go by, and then later I'm like, hey, did you do that thing, you know? And you're like, oh. Or like every time like you see me, you're like, oh, you asked me about that again, or whatever it is. And it's like, you know, there's no condemnation for those that are in Christ, right? But we have things that have been sitting on our shelves for a while that we're supposed to do something about. And those things really link to, yeah, that one guy, I'm supposed to invite him over to my house for a meal. You know, or I'm supposed to go like help so-and-so with this thing, you know, but I've been too busy, or whatever it is. So you guys fill in the blanks, but, you know, challenge yourself, pray as a family. I would challenge you this week to pray as a family. God, is there something specific that we've kind of closed our eyes to that you've already shown us? Is there something that you're wanting us to do, either individually or as a family? And then just be obedient, period. Beyond convenience, just be obedient to it, right? And I'm going to challenge you too, because we're doing the summer slowdown. So some of the other things, like, you know, we're going to, as Alicia was saying today, like we'll have a couple of special events throughout the year. Or throughout the summer, we've got Fun Day. We have our potluck this coming Wednesday. But you're going to have some less scheduled things this summer, at least from us anyway. So just take it and run with it and do something with it, and then come back and what? Testify to what's happened, right? You know, we want to share these things. So some scriptures, we'll keep going, but that's what Joe says, what the Lord says is more important. So we're going to go with scripture. Luke, let's look at Luke. I'm actually going to, I only want to read, give me a second here. Yeah, okay. So I want to read part of a longer passage that I'm going to come back to. But basically Luke 11:5-7 says this. Then teaching them more about prayer, he used this story. Suppose you went to a friend's house at midnight, wanting to borrow 3 loaves of bread. You say to him, a friend of mine just arrived for a visit, and I have nothing for him to eat. And suppose he calls out from his bedroom, don't bother me. The door is locked for the night, and my family and I are in bed. I can't help you, right? That's kind of like, wow, like seriously, like would somebody say that? But, you know, in reality, we do this stuff when, you know, it could be like a phone call we don't take. We even kind of probably know what it's about. We want to go to bed. It doesn't have to be late at night. That was just what that was. But the concept of, you know, it's cool to do things when it's convenient for us. But sometimes the most inconvenient things is linked to your breakthrough. Amen. When you'll just say, yep, I will do it. Amen. Here I am, Lord, send me. I will do it. Who's going to do it? I'll do it. Like you're not going to wait for it, right? And so don't miss those things. Be selfish. Do everything that God has for you. He'll blow you away. Guarantee you, he will blow you away with your life if you will just say, I will do whatever it is. Let's look at Joshua. Joshua 24, 14-15. I'm looking at the NIV translation this time. It says, now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods of your ancestors, throw away the gods of your ancestors, worshipped beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, there you go, inconvenient. If it seems undesirable to you, in that moment, not always, hey, it's on Sunday, I'm all in, God. What about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? How about next Sunday? Then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you are living. And then he declared, but as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. And so, like it or not, even if you're not saying that directly, your kids are watching you declare that or not, right? So how you live, and I can even think, and I'm not going to call out scenarios, I can just think of stuff where it's like, you know what? God sometimes uses your kids to just be like, boom, smack you in the face in a good way. And it's like, you needed that. How did that feel? That felt great, because now you're awake. You're awake in Christ, and you're going to go do the things that he has for you. And so, yet, when we are modeling, back to my first point, we're modeling what God wants us to model, man, they're seeing what they need to see. And it is good. And they will be encouraged by it. And it'll be as if you're like physically standing at your kitchen table saying, right before you pray for a meal or whatever, you know, we will serve the Lord, like making the same declarations. Like, you don't have to get up and say that when you're living in such a manner where it's clear and evident that you are, right? A lot of times people don't really want to hear stuff. They want to see action, right? And they'll believe it even more. So Colossians 3, instructions. I just love how the Word of God, it'll give us, people will be like, well, yeah, I got this question, but like it doesn't, like the Bible doesn't answer it. And I'm like, okay, I'm in agreement. Like there are certain things in the Bible that like, you know, you maybe can't get a direct answer to, but maybe you got to get on your knees, and maybe God's going to speak to you directly, and maybe that's even better, right? Yet, the things that we really need to know, the Bible speaks to. So let's just talk about this, especially as it relates to the family unit. Instructions for Christian households in Colossians 3:18-21. Wives, submit to your husbands as fitting for those who belong to the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and never treat them harshly. Children, always obey your parents, for this pleases the Lord. A lot of times the Bible is going to tell us why. Now, it doesn't just say do it. It says why. For it pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not aggravate your children, or they will become discouraged. And looking at it through Amplified, starts with, wives, be subject to your husbands out of respect for their position as a protector and their accountability to God as a proper and fitting in the Lord. And I will say this is a challenge as well, that if we are meant to be a protector men and we have accountability to God, then we are meant to lead our homes. We're meant to lead our homes. We're meant to step to the plate and do what we need to do. Our family needs to see that. Other families need to see us doing that, right? Husbands, verse 19, love your wives with affections, sympathetic, selfless love that always seeks the best for them. If you love your wives so well, and I'm not perfect, I guarantee I screw this up all the time, but if I do this well, it is a lot easier for her to love me back well. Being selfless, and do not be embittered or resentful towards them because of the responsibilities of marriage. So at times, again, wow, it's not convenient, man. I got stuff going on. I got to work, baby. Like, whatever. It's like, you know, love them. Be able to hear what your wife needs and love them, meet them in that place. Verse 20, children, obey your parents as God's representatives in your family, in your house, in all things. For this attitude of respect and obedience, being able to do that in your house will allow you to be able to have a greater capacity to do that for your future bosses, for other positions of authority. If you can do that in your home, I guarantee you that will allow you and that will enable you to do greater things in your future. For this attitude of respect and obedience is well-pleasing to the Lord, and it will bring you God's promised blessings. So there you go again. Verse 21, fathers, do not provoke or irritate or exasperate your children. I can put myself in this at times where, even my little kids, like my boys, just like, can drive you nuts at times. With demands that are trivial or unreasonable or like, they're kids. They don't even fully understand. Like, for me, like, I would be like, just like, you know, like, I don't know, like, act like an adult or something. Like, I don't say that. It's like, but they're a kid, they're a toddler, they have no clue how to do that. You've got to help them, like teach them, right? So don't provoke or irritate or exasperate your children with demands that are trivial or unreasonable or humiliating or abusive, punishing them in front of their kids or in front of their friends or something. Don't show favoritism or indifference. Treat them tenderly with loving kindness so that they will not lose heart or become discouraged or unmotivated with their spirits broken. Adults can walk around with a spirit that's crushed and broken. I see it all the time. Better believe kids can too, right? And so for me, I'm preaching to myself in this. I mean, honestly, even not by showing favoritism. Truth be told, it's difficult at times for me not to want to show Joshua favoritism, And I'm not standing up saying he's my favorite, but there's just a special bond that I have with my first child, right? And yet, like, I read this stuff and I love the word. I love looking at different translations. I love how it will even put me in my place at times, where I look at that and say, this is what God's telling us, but there's great things. If we do this, our kids won't be discouraged. We have a greater ability to help them not be unmotivated or not walk around with broken spirits, that they can receive the promised blessings of God, that the Lord is then well pleased with us, that they have an understanding of how to be respectful and obedient, not just to us, but in life. And we can say that how we parented them, how we operated as a house, made a significant difference in and through their lives. So, okay, last point, kind of bring it to a transition over to the Landises, who I believe will have encouragement for us. One thing that I wanted you guys to definitely take with you from today was God wants you to contend for his best for your home forever, no matter what happens. So you're like, hey, this thing happened. My house doesn't look like what it was supposed to, preacher. It doesn't. Maybe recently it's like things have been really, really tough and like I'm just trying to get by. I'm just trying to grind through this thing. Okay, you're being real. But God wants you to not just stop there. He wants you to contend for the best that he has. He doesn't make mistakes. He's not on vacation. No matter what happens. And so your business goes down, you go bankrupt, you have cancer, whatever it is, no matter what happens. I mean, I love that. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago when you stood up and Neil and just sharing testimony? It's like, yeah, I was sitting there like, that's my God. Yeah, that's my God. Like speaking through my sister, like, yeah, And so no matter what happens, I believe even in that you are contending for God's best. God's best not only in your life, but in your home. Your kids, everybody that knew you in that situation, watching you stand in that, right? That testified. We must be able to reject poor models that we might maybe grow up with. I grew up with one. And I talked about, I think the last time I preached, that, every form of abuse possible. I grew up with junk, man. I would never want anybody to grow up with that stuff. People have had worse. But, or negative voices people speak over you about. Even in today's world of like broken, blended families, just different aspects and dynamics there, that it's becoming more normal than ever. But people can kind of attach stigmas and speak things over people, and they can walk with that junk as if like they're never going to get free from it or whatever. And I feel like the Spirit of the Lord is saying, it doesn't matter what you experienced before. Let me do something new in you, in your household, just the way it is right now. Contend for his best and watch what he will do. You have to be intentional. We talked about that before. Take them to the hardware store, take them to pick up flowers, whatever it is. But you need to be intentional in the spiritual investment in our children. And when we do that, they will shine. They will shine. And it's so encouraging. I know it's little things, but for those of you who have Marco Polo, the app, sometimes my wife, it's a way that she'll communicate what's happening during the day, a little video of the kids or something. And I've been so encouraged by my wife and watching what she's doing with the kids, where Joshua will basically start giving these little testimonies about I prayed for this and this thing happened at school, little things. And I'm just sitting there wow, I'm it challenges me to be teach me, wife, how you're doing that. That's amazing, with them or something. But, these things are really real, and our kids are meant to shine, And so, but, we have to be intentional in investing into them. And your investment never stops. It doesn't matter if they've left the home. It doesn't stop. I guarantee you guys are continuing to invest into your children. So continue to do that. Never give up on that. And again, we can't leave this to the job of the teachers, the pastors, or worse, the world of technology. Somebody's going to teach your kids, right? Somebody's going to invest into your kids, junk or good stuff. And how about we do our part to make it good? And then don't hide your junk. As we told the small group that we're kicking off, don't hide your junk. Let them use it for good. Let God show you his redemptive work, right? And his enduring forgiveness. So it's easy to want to be like, I don't really want people to know certain things, right? Or I could be very much in my position, be like, I'm only going to tell you guys some stuff. I'm going to hold back other things, right? And I pray that would not be who I am, because you can benefit more by me being really completely real with you, letting God speak to you through whatever comes out of my mouth, especially if it's authentic. And so I would just tell you, when you're there and you're praying with somebody and you're like, man, I can really relate to what I'm praying for this person, but you're maybe embarrassed to talk about something that in your life that could speak like a tractor trailer powerfully into the situation, don't hold it back, right? Because it'll be like, well, how are they going to look at me? And it's I'm praying for them to have victory in this area where I was a mess for years. And it's let God use it, right? And look at where your life is now and where you used to be. One quick story, finish the scripture, and then I'll have the Lannises come up. So this man, Aaron Sierra, Pastor Ryan met him at the men's advance from the church in Reading, Allentown, sorry. So he had a powerful testimony. I wish he could be standing here right now. He would do a heck of a better job than I would. But just to quickly summarize. So his parents left their original, his parents, before they were his parents, left their spouses in the midst of a cult decades ago. Basically, the cult was hey, just be free and liberated, and you're just going to get with somebody new and it's going to be great or something. He was explaining it was really super creepy. And I'm like, how did this collective group of people that were apparently followers of Christ buy into this nonsense? But they did. And so Aaron's parents, though they weren't his parents yet, became his parents as they got together and made him. They then lived in separate states. She was cast out of the community that she was around there, her church and stuff. Eventually they come to Christ, each of them, different states, come together, they marry, they now are ministers of the gospel, ultimately birthed an amazing testimony of their son. So we're sitting there at lunch with him, and he's recounting this much better than I am right now in detail. And I remember just sitting there and being this is powerful, man. This is powerful. Have you ever told your dad and your mom this, man? The way it was so evident that that the redemptive power of God, what I'm just describing to you. So I said, let me find it exactly. Let the world see his redemptive work and his enduring forgiveness. That they were so humbled, repentant, broken, and then used and redeemed in such a way that the family became an amazing family. And this young man has been really impacted. I feel super grounded, on fire for the Lord. Kind of sees it hey, what the enemy meant for harm, God's using this for good, right? And I was your parents need to hear this, man, right? Your version of what it was through your eyes. And so I challenged him to go back and tell his parents that, and hopefully he did. But my point is, again, he had more wrinkles to the story. It was just you were sitting there what the heck? Is this is really real? But when you hear something that kind of makes you feel that, that's nuts. You don't want to say it, but you're that's crazy. And then but you see the light shining, radiating through a person. It's this God's in the business of doing some serious stuff, man. And so if we are a follower of Christ, it encourages the heck out of us, right? And for those that don't know the Lord, who the heck knows? If we invest in our kids the right way, who knows? Who the Billy Grahams or whoever, they were at one point a kid and a parent of somebody, right? And who knows what they're going to become, right? God desires great things. Let's go back real quick to Luke 11, and then the Lannises are going to come up. Luke 11, 5 to 13, I want to look at I want to look at verse 8 this time, and 8 to the conclusion, 8 to 13. So this was back to that whole like, hey, like, you know, my door's locked, like, we're in bed, like, I can't help you story, right? I don't know if I still have this up, we'll see. No, I don't. So, but it goes on to verse 8 and says, "But I tell you this, though he won't do it for friendship's sake, if you keep knocking long enough, he will get up, and he'll give you whatever you need because of your shameless persistence. And so I tell you, keep on asking, and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking, and you will find. Keep on knocking, and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, everyone who seeks finds, and everyone who knocks, the door will be open. You fathers, if your children ask for a fish, do you give them a snake instead? Or if they ask for an egg, do you give them a scorpion? Of course not. So you sinful people know how. So if you sinful people know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father give the Holy Spirit to those who ask him?" And so